Hello. I'm hoping that technology will not fail me this time round, and I would like to make several announcements before we start answering the questions. So, first of all, this live stream is happening now instead of our planned discussion with my friend Angela Mendes, which we were going to co host. And the topic was going to be in young journaling discussion. And our aim was to present you with some ideas how a therapist and a life coach, unconventional life coach, I must correct, because this is what Angela is. How we approach journaling differently in our life and our practice. And also, we are very different. We are good friends for a long time, and we are also very, very different constitutionally in our attitude, in our environment, in everything. And we thought that would be a fantastic opportunity for you to see sort of polar opposites. And it's still going to happen just at some later date, and we will let you know as soon as we can. Because, as I said, tech failed us a little bit yesterday, so something went wrong with one of our channels, and so we couldn't organize live stream. However, instead, what is happening today is we are going to focus on one of the questions, which is very, very important. And this is something that we wanted to start off with. So today we will make a start. Angela Mendes is here in the chat. So if you would like to ask Angela a question directly, you can do so in the chat. And I'm hoping that you can all see the chat. Please do let me know if you actually see the chat, if you see the questions. Thank you, Angela. If you see the questions, if you see everything, and if everything is all right. So I'm hoping so. So this is this was the first announcement that Indian journaling discussion with Angela Mendes is still going to happen, but at a later date, and we will let you know as soon as possible. Second announcement is during month of October, I, for myself, doing free mini consultations related to journaling. If you're familiar with me through Kalapuncture, you know that I'm doing it in November every year for Kalapuncture. I'm connecting with people one-to-one for 15, 20 minutes, and I provide them with Kalapuncture protocol, which suits to their current needs. And I decided to do the same this time, this October, but for journaling. So if you're interested in some more sort of tailor-made, personalized plan in terms of, not a plan, but journaling prompt, which will provide you with a plan, which we can create together. So you focus on a question, you focus on a problem you would like to get some more clarity on, because journaling is a lot about clarity in my experience. Then please connect, book your consultation. I provided a link in a description to this video. So book a consultation with me, absolutely no obligation. I love chatting with people, and if you know me, you know this. And we can take it from there. Journaling prompts are a fantastic way to start on journaling. If you don't particularly journal yet, but they're also a really good way to deepen your journaling. If you do journal, but you tend to rely more on what is called stream of consciousness writing, which is when you just have your blank piece of paper or your computer document open, depending on the way you journal, and you just write what is on your mind, what is in your chest, so to speak, what's going on in your life, and then from here you sort of develop, and you let your thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations flow. You give every part of you a voice, and then obviously you have the whole ensemble of voices in your journaling. If you do this is really great. This is a great, fantastic place to start. But I found that sometimes, apart from this, in addition to or instead of this, because let's face it, not every day we have opportunity to do this because we are busy, lives are busy, we're doing other things, then prompt journaling is a really, really great place to start. Because if you have a collection of good prompts which are suited for this particular moment of time in your life, then this is much easier. And this is something that I'm going to provide in October. So please do connect using the link. in the description to this video, and we can connect on Zoom, and we ask you questions, we can have a chat, and I will provide you, we will create a prompt together, really. We will create a prompt together, because I believe it's not I can provide you with hundreds and thousands of writing prompts. I did it for many, many people over the years. But I feel that the best I can do is to actually facilitate your process of creating your own journaling prompts. I think this is the best, because then you can just do it without me, without me, without anyone else, if you have this habit, if you know how to do it. So I think this is really, really great opportunity. So please do use this opportunity and connect. And now let's have a look at the questions, and let's have some conversation in whichever shape and form the tech allows us today. Okay, Angela, you're here. Thank you. Okay, the first question is, when did I start journaling? When did I start journaling? I started journaling when I was probably in early high school years. It was certainly teenage years when I started journaling. And I have no idea how I started, what prompted me to start, or where did I get this idea from. But I started writing something, obviously, on paper. There was no computers back then. I'm that old. I'm nearing 60 in a couple of years. So yes, back in the day when I was a teen, there was no computers. Or even if they were probably those like huge machines, which would take some time, but there was no personal computers for sure. So it was just page and pen or pencil. Interesting question. And I would like you to make some notes as we are going through this, for you to serve as journaling prompts, because I would like to leave you today with some journaling prompts. So interesting question is seemingly irrelevant or seemingly not significant, but actually it says a lot about our psychology. How did you actually journal? I would like you to start reflecting on your first experience with journaling. I started journaling, writing things on paper with a pen. Later on, I started journaling in pencil. And there's a huge difference between the two. Nowadays, I type on computer because it's much quicker. Only when something really happening, really dramatic, really difficult for me, then I'm going to my pen and paper. But normally for my daily plan, to describe something, I would go to computer, because then I copy and paste, and then I postpone it, and then I can move it, and this is much easier for me to read. However, there are drawbacks to this, obviously, and I'm aware of it. So it's a mixture, but more tends to computer. But in my early years, it was definitely paper journal. I was journaling about social interactions, and I was trying also to connect with myself. Social interactions, because they were problematic for me. I was fine academic-wise, I was doing well at school. However, I didn't connect well straight away. I was sort of out of place in my immediate surroundings. And so even so, I never had bad relationship with people. I didn't have the depth and warmth of relationship and friendship that I was looking for. It came much later, and actually I worked on it consciously. So for my communication with people, so it stopped being a problem. And obviously now I still journal about other people, but those other people tend to be my family members. And this is because I love my family, and I probably worry a lot. I mean, not probably, I worry a lot about each family member, and I write about it. I would like to see how I can do things better. What do I do better? What do I say better next time? And this is exactly what I started doing back in my teen years. I would describe a particular conflict or a problem, my doubt, some interaction in school or in the family with parents, indeed, with my sister. And I would see what I can do better. I would first explore how I feel about it. I would write about it, but ultimately I wanted to come up with some sort of solution, or at least some options, possible options for a solution. How can I make it better next time? So still to the same day, it is the same, but now it concerns family member rather than friendships, relationship, because those, as I said, those are things I was consciously, very, very intentionally working on for a number of years, and I sort of It's not like I'm not claiming I figured it all out, but I'm in a much better position to understand all what it is. And another thing I will use to journal about is myself, was myself. Myself in terms of I was trying to understand myself better. Obviously, with my journal, as any teen would, I gave voice to my feelings and my thoughts. But beyond that, as early as that, I started writing about how I wanted my life to be. I would make lists. Number one, number two, number three, number five, number 10. What I wanted to have in my life, how I wanted to behave, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to look. And this was a big, big, big thing. I was trying to figure out not just who I am, but where I'm going, what I want to happen. And it's interestingly much the same now. I still write about myself, but obviously, again, because I'm in therapy field and in self development, personal development, those things are have now they're still there, but they have different expansion and depth. Obviously, this is much easier for me, and it's more about my work plans, my more sort of tangible plans rather than general. But as early as that, I remember writing about it. And this was very interesting. I recently read an article, I think it was on BBC, about solitude. The article was related to solitude, and they would describe multiple benefits of solitude. They did mention journaling very, very briefly, but mainly they focused on solitude. And what I realized when I looked at my sort of early experience was that I was brought up in a family which was very, very strict. People were very opinionated. They knew exactly right from wrong, black from white. They knew exactly how to behave, what to do, and they had planned for everything, including myself. So I had, in a way, some restrictions of my freedom, right? But luckily for me, both my parents worked full time. My sister was busy, so there was a lot of time when I was with myself, when I was with my journal. And what they mention in this article, and what I can see really, really clearly with my early writing, they're saying you have this time when you have solitude to build yourself, to connect with yourself, to understand yourself better. And so this is a really great starting point. So looking at it, I'm thinking that what I used to see as a sort of difficult part of my childhood, that I didn't have this warmth and love and depth and kindness that I desired, I had plenty of time to myself. So I had plenty of time to develop this relationship and the habit of journaling. So I think it's really, really interesting to analyze, and I would really encourage you to do that. I would return this question to you. When did you start journaling, and what did you journal about, and how it can provide a bridge into today? So how is your early journals? How are your early journals are different or similar to what you write about now? Not just in terms of handwriting and computer, but in terms of what you're writing about. And what is a really sort of deeper level of questions? What are you trying to clarify for yourself? And what do I do with my old journals? I actually kept most of them. And it was really, really interesting. I moved several times in my life. I moved countries twice, and I moved places. So my early journals were kept in my parental house. And a couple of years ago, after my mom trying to organize all the papers and everything, so she found journals, and she gave them to me, and that was almost like, my God, I was meeting some old friend. I was meeting my younger me. I thought they were lost, but most of them were lost, but some of them, the first one, the very first one, they were kept. And I'm really deeply grateful to my mom for that. And it's really, really interesting. So I would like you to spend some time after our call to reflect on your first journal experiences, how it was, or what it was, in pencil or in pen, and or what did you write about? Obviously, if you're very young and you started off computer typing, then you started off computer typing, and what it is now, and how the topics changed. And you will see what got resolved in your life, which problems, which you mentioned in your early journals, but which are no longer topics of today, or which themes stayed. And those themes are our core themes for life. So I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, so we have some answers. Journaled on paper with a pen, can reflect while typing on computer, but only when I want to use what I was writing. Yes, totally. If you're writing on computer and you know that you're mainly writing about your plans, it's much easier because then you can again copy and paste. You can absolutely use it. Personal practice always on paper and pen. Great, Angela, fantastic. So what about other people? Would you like to put something in comments? Or would you like to put something in chat? Any questions? And any reflections on your early practices? Would be nice to hear from you. And is there any questions? Ah, okay, I see. So you cannot type if you don't have YouTube channel. All right, in that case, I would still absolutely love to hear from all of you, and thank you so much for attending today. So please do connect with me. You have my email if you have my newsletter. Otherwise, I will put all the details, all the option to connect with me in description. But the best one would be obviously to book one-to-one with me in October. As I said, there is absolutely no obligation because there is none. There is none. It's not. I do have training on journaling, but it's not the point. My point is to connect and see what we can do in terms of constructing just one very targeted, very simple but very profound prompt which you can use. And what I'm saying, it seems like, oh, just one prompt. What I found, interestingly enough, even though I personally use journaling for clarity, to get to more clarity, to get to the depths, yes, but to get to the depths, I also have Kalapankshi and Dreamwork, right? But clarity, only journaling gives me sort of best clarity, fuller clarity, because journaling brings something which was unconscious, which were lifted during dreams, dreaming, and dream analysis, or during color puncture. It lifts it more to the conscious awareness so we can see better. And journaling gives me this connection. And this is what I always advise to my patients and students as well. And this is something, if you're into any therapy, this is also what you can do. So if somebody comes to me, if a patient comes to me, for example, and we are booked for acupuncture or colopuncture session, then we talk a lot in the beginning. We try to engage conscious mind a lot to clarify the issue, to clarify the question, to focus on the question. And then we forget all about it. They take a nice deep breath, they lie down, I do colopuncture or acupuncture, and they relax really, really deeply. And usually something comes. This something was in the body, in the mind, in your energy field, you name it, all along. It got much better to clarity and to the surface with the body therapy. And after the session, so they have very often people have some more insights and associations, new connections. And then after the session, I encourage them not to engage into any excessive talking. Obviously, I ask them how they are and everything, but I try not to talk with them too much. They have their water or some tea, and I ask them to go somewhere quiet. It could be a cafe with a coffee, it could be just sitting in the car before they get home. Something in between our talk, their body session, and them coming back to the environment they came from. They need this little gap of time to create the space to reflect and to deepen and to expand on what came for them, to form new connection and associations from what we talked about, what body gave them, and what is coming out as almost integration happens. And it's really, really beautiful because then mostly what happens, they email me and said, oh, I was sitting in a cafe and this is what I realized. This is something what came to me. And this is really beautiful. It's continuation of your session. Please do yourself a favor and do it for yourself. When I'm doing my own acupuncture practice, I receive needles as well, obviously, but I'm not giving needles to myself. But with acupuncture, the beauty of it, you can absolutely self-give. It's the same with acupressure. I focus on a question I want to ask myself again. Then I do a treatment I want to do, and I'm focusing full on my body sensations, on what crosses my mind, and so on and so forth. And then if something comes, I stop my treatment and I write it down very, very quickly, just, little keywords so I can then connect. And very often I end up, even a simple treatment of like 2 points, I end up with a lot of new associations and insights, which were absolutely not there before I started, but which suddenly makes like a total sense. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, how did I not think about it earlier? So you can absolutely do it with your self-care, with your acupuncture self-care, with your acupressure self-care. Every time you go to a therapist for some massage or some sessions, then you can absolutely do the same. This is really, really beautiful. So this is another way to use journaling. Okay, more questions. Thank you. Do you write events or thoughts and feelings? Everything. Thank you. Great question. I write about everything. I usually start, when I start typing sort of stream of conscious style. I usually give myself some time, unless it's my day off and I have a lot of time and I feel like writing. What I realize that, and this is something that we're going to cover in our Yin Yang journaling when we do come to this discussion with Angela Mendes. What I realize is there are some times when you need to be brief, and there are some times when you need to expand. And it's very important not to confuse the two, because it's all about this Yin and Yang principle. Do you do more of a reflection, or do you do more of lifting something to clarity and getting into external and getting into some action? So most of the time I write, starting with stream of conscious writing, and then I'm going and I'm reading what I've written. I made a little bit of tidying up if I have time. Don't worry if you don't, because some mornings I don't. I write in the morning. Even so, I'm absolutely not a morning person. I like writing in the morning because it sort of focuses you. It's really reorients your entire day, because you thought about something. Obviously, you have plans, but maybe you saw a dream. If I see a dream, by the way, I type my dream and I put it in a different color. For me, it's more sort of turquoise color, because this is color of subconscious and color puncture. And what then can happen as I'm going through my journals at the end of the month, at the end of the year, I can see all my dreams highlighted in turquoise. And this is beautiful, because then I can only analyze the dreams. I generally color code when I have time for this. And this is a absolutely separate topic, because you can do it so much about um, when you read between the lines. You can go back and read, and you can color code depending actually what you're writing about. So I start with stream of conscious writing, and then what happens is that if there is a dream, I highlight it in turquoise, and this is a dream. If this is a plan, then I highlight it in bold, red, and then I copy and paste it to my daily to-do. If this is something more for the future, then I color code it in a particular way. But generally, I write till a point when something becomes clear, and there is a specific journaling technique for that. So if you're interested, ask me. When you stop on a particular moment, when something gets to the full clarity. And this is really a great place to stop. You can go past this. There is no problem in that. You can go, but generally, I feel our energy field and our mind work in a way that in any particular time, there is only one thing, one problem, one question, one conflict, one question to ask. And as soon as you get some ideas or some clarity or some new connection associations, I think it's a great idea to stop and really explore this. Either this is something that will give you some food for thought, or this is something that you need to action out and do or say or develop or plan or schedule or whatever. Or this is something that you need to accept. This is something that can give you joy. But that something provides your connection. This is the point of connection. You come up with some new information which wasn't there when you started your stream of conscious writing. So I usually stop at this moment, and I do what I need to do with this particular bit of information, and I schedule the rest, because very often there's some sort of change of plans. I sometimes get better ideas. Generally, I tend in the morning to tune into my first sensations in the morning, like what do I feel? This is this specific state between sleep and awake when you sort of in a very relaxed state. So deeper sensing, deeper bodily felt senses, deeper connections. I would say freer from restrictions and your own sensory can appear. And so I focused on this before journaling as well. And if something like this comes, definitely I class it more as a dream, and I'm highlighting it in some turquoise, and then I put it in my journal. So it's everything. But then I'm doing the sorting out. I'm going back. I'm rereading it. Whatever needs to go into to-do list goes into to-do list. Dreams just stay there unless I'm actively doing some dream work, which I do several times a year as a cycle, sort of around solstice times, because those are special energy times in the year when we are more open, when we are more connected, when we can go really, really deep with our dream work. So then I can analyze the dream there and then. Or if I'm having a really solid nightmare, then I stop, I put away all the writing, and I self analyze the dream, because there are techniques for that as well. So let me move it. I hope it answers your question. So everything, absolutely everything. This is the thing, you need to give voice to different parts of yourself. And I think this is what comes when you start journaling. This is what you get familiar with. You get familiar with different parts of yourself. Because you're planning your daily self, this is one part. Your feeling self is another part. Your dreaming self is yet another part. And so when you give every part of you a voice, then you end up with this beautiful ensemble of feelings, associations, and writing. But I also think that really journaling is about journaling, it's about writing. But what we all tend to miss is journaling is also about reading. If you go and read your journal, you're giving yourself a really wonderful, absolutely wonderful journey in your past, and you connect with your former self. And when I'm saying past, like at the moment, I'm rereading my journal for January this year, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this is like a deep past because everything changed since. Obviously, there are years and years, there are different, sometimes there is a sort of really stagnation part of your life, there's nothing much happening, but sometimes events are developing quickly and you find yourself in completely new territory. Back to the question on prompts, why I feel that a timely stop in your journaling, or when you got to this new information, or just one prompt, which is really, really targeted, is more important than going and doing big exploration. Because I found that a good question is much more important than a good answer. Because we are dynamic beings as humans, things are developing. If you really ask yourself an important question, and there are arts of asking questions, it needs to be specific enough and general enough, right? So for you to engage with this deeper part of you, to invite the inner part of you, really, really innermost part of you to this dialogue and maintain this dialogue, you need your question to be right proportion of general and specific. But as you go through time, the same question to yourself, same question for your soul, will have different answers. And when you analyze those answers, and we tend to wonder about similar things in life, unless there is a really problem area and this is something that we figure out once and for all, if this is possible. Most of the time, we have layers and layers and layers of perception, and we look at the same thing that happened at some point at different angles as we go through our life, as we receive the treatment, as we journal, as we generally develop and live our life. So I hope this answers your question. So yes, just one prompt, timely prompt, really targeted, general enough and specific enough, will provide you with some food for thoughts for weeks. If this is a good question. So journaling prompts, good. Okay. So thank you so much for being here with me today, and I'm hoping that I will see you on one-to-ones, or and I will see you also when we do figure out some things with Angela, and we will connect for Indian journaling. I just wanted to really briefly introduce Angela Mendes. I know it's a bit inconvenient because she's in the chat, but you cannot see this beautiful soul. Angela is my friend, as I said, and she's life coach. And she started off as a usual life coach, if there is such a thing as usual life coach. But now she developed so much in a really sort of interesting direction. So you'll absolutely you have lots of inspiration and much stimulation for your mental and energy sort of capacities when you connect with her. So highly recommend, and we will be in touch about it very shortly. Okay, thank you, and have a great Saturday. So please take these questions that we looked at as journaling prompts. When did you start journaling? What happened with your old journals? How are you journaling now? What do you do with your journals now? And probably the last prompt is, what would you like your journaling to look like in some years, in some weeks, in some months, in some years? So, bye bye.